My name is Ben. I'm part of the support team here at Intreface, and this is a quick video to demonstrate and show the new smart processors in Bitrix24. Smart processors are effectively a customizable CRM entity within the Bitrix24 CRM that allows users to create their own entity and processes. Within those processes or the entity, you can create your own pipelines, stages, automation rules, and permissions for each one of these entities. And these entities can then be further connected to other CRM entities and modules like the deals, leads, contacts, and as well as you can also connect them to calendar events and tasks. And I'll quickly demonstrate how this works. So to get the actual smart processes, you want to go to your site and navigate to the CRM. In the CRM, you will find a button for smart process automation. If it doesn't show in the menu at the top, it might show under more. If you click into there, you'll be presented with this interface, effectively just a list. It'll be blank for yourself if you've not created any. And if you were to click add, that will allow you to create a new smart process. So I'll do that just to show you what this looks like. So on doing that, you will see a slider with some options. And in essence, this allows you to kind of pre-configure or select a pre-configured set of rules for these smart processes. So in my case, I'm going to go with an empty SPA so we can configure it from scratch. And we're going to do the first thing is we're going to give it a name, and we're going to call it an onboarding. So that'll be our name. And you can see here at the bottom we have some options, and this is entirely depending on your structure and what exactly you want to achieve. So at the top one, using custom pipelines and sales funnels in the SPA, I'm going to select that. What this allows me to do is very similar to deals. I can use pipelines and additional stages within that, additional funnels within that those pipelines. So in effect, I can then have different processes or different stages for each different types of processes that I need to trigger. In another case is using custom stages and the Kanban view in the SPA. So if you have multiple stages for the process, for example, in our case, we're going to be doing an onboarding process. So in my case, I've got 4 stages for that. But there might be situations where you don't need stages and you just need kind of a documentation of what it is. So you can deselect that in that case. Using automation rules and triggers, pretty self-explanatory. If you want to be able to automate and use triggers within this entity, you have to select this option. And then this final option, in effect, just means that if you create additional pipelines on top of the ones that we create now, these pipelines are automatically made public. So any new pipelines can then be automatically be granted access to all your users. So I'm going to select all 4. Again, this is entirely dependent on what it is that you're trying to achieve, so I would encourage you to mess around with these. The next option is the SPA fields. So this effectively allows you to pre-configure some of the fields that are available in this entity card. You might recognize some of these fields from the CRM within deals, contacts, or leads. And the main ones obviously that you can see is the company details. So this is if you wanted to, of course, include the details field. So you can store additional information like the address, banking details, etc., all within this little field. We've got the source, so we can track where this entity came from. So there might be situations where we might include it for email. And then we've got the customer field. Now this one's quite important if you want to bind the entity we're creating to either a company or to a contact. We've got the start date and end date, again self-explanatory, and then we've got the observers in case we wanted to give anybody access to this record without making them responsible for that record. There's some additional options over here, things like being able to print documents, binding catalog products, so if you wanted to bring in products into this entity, and finally the use of the recycle bin. So obviously if you wanted to recover any of these records, you could do that. The next option on the list is the CRM binding, and this is what you would actually use to bind our automation, our process or entity to certain entities within the CRM. So as you can see here, I can select any one of the lead, deal or order, which are the default CRM entities, and then in addition to that I can select any additional entities that I may have created using this process. So in my situation with the onboarding process, I do want to collect and link a deal, and we want to select it in the deal form. That way, if a customer, a new customer, or a new lead places an order with us, I can then send them, start the onboarding process as part of the sales process, or really an additional entity or process for it. You can also select additional entities, so in case you obviously didn't want to select them from here, you can select it over here. So these are entities that I've already created previously. So after saving this onboarding one, if I was to create another one, I would be able to create and select this onboarding one. And you can additionally create links to the details form, but I'm not going to do this in this case. I only want to bind to this SPA. So binding to other tools, once again, we can select the CRM entities, we can select calendar, tasks and task template. So again, if you needed to select any other CRM entities, you'll have a field. If you wanted to create any events and link them to this entity, you'd have to do that. And it's the same for tasks and task templates. Final option in this menu is the add to menu option or parameter. In effect, this allows you to create a link to this SPA in the left hand menu in your main menu. So you can select and you can add additional items. In this case, I'm not going to leave that. I'm going to leave that disabled, and I'm going to click save. So now we've actually got our, as you can see, our SPA created. We can actually manage the field settings, so the additional fields or custom fields that we can create for this directly in this interface. So once again, CRM, Smart Process Automation, and then you can hover over the one you've just created and click Field Settings. This will bring up a list, a slider with a list with any custom fields you already have. If not, you can click on the Create button. Over here, just like any other field, you can configure the data type, selecting from a pre-configured list. The field ID is locked, so you won't be able to change that, but you can change the field name and configure some of these settings like multiple values, whether the value is required, etc, etc. You can also give the field additional names in different languages, so you can obviously, for localization purposes, really, And then under more, we can set certain values for the default value, row count, anything like that. So in my case, you might, in any situation, I know I've got an onboarding process. I might want to attach some files to that, so I can do multiple onboarding files. So we'll give that a name, make it, well, we won't make it required yet. We'll leave that everything the same, and we'll click save, and then we'll have an actual field. To actually edit the or view the actual process, we can click on the name over here, or alternatively, once you create it, you'll be able to get it obviously in the menu as well. So I'm going to click on here, and as you can see, this is very much like the lead view or a deal view, where you can see the different stages. Similarly to deals, I can actually edit the pipeline directly by clicking pipelines and editing the stages here. I can add an extra funnel if I wanted to, and in effect I can configure some automation rules based on that, to move my entity back and forth between these. So in my case, I only actually want the one pipeline, so I'm going to do this, configure my stages. So we've got my introduction. The second one I want to do is prepare material. And then final one will be send package. And then under success is obviously when they reply and they're happy with the information, and fail obviously is also a default. We'll rename this and just call it onboarding process. And then over here at the top, we can click add to actually add one of our an onboarding process. So as you can see here, we've got the amount, which by default, you could hide if you don't need this. We'll give it a name, and we'll just go and then under select field, I'm going to make sure that I've got all the fields that I want in here. Actually, I don't want to hide that one. Hide that one. So we can configure any stages that we want, obviously create any additional fields, anything like that. And over here in my contact, I'm going to select one of my contacts. And for the deal, I'm just going to select a potential deal. Do a test deal. And I'm going to save this. So as you can see, I've got my my new entity directly showing directly underneath the introduction. I can also set some automation rules. So based on the different stages it's in, I can have certain automation rules go out. So in my case, I might want to send an introduction email, just as like an initial step. And then obviously what we can do is we can also create all sorts of kind of activities or kind of a task even. We could create a task for the user, just letting them know obviously of the different actions that they need to do throughout the process. So you can flesh that out and build that up the way you want it to. So obviously have each of the automation rules for that. But in addition to that, you can also have triggers. So you know, in situations where you've got an email being sent out and the email's being clicked or being viewed, you can automatically progress the deal, or sorry, the entity we've created to the stage depending on that trigger. So I'm just going to save my automation rules. So in terms of the connection to other entities, now that I've actually created this record, you can see I've connected it to my contact, I've connected it to a deal, and I've also got some details from my company. So if I was to click on, my deal, you'll see a tab here called onboarding. If I click on the tab, I'll be able to see kind of a link to the record I've just created, and I'll be able to see obviously it's different kind of information about the actual record, so you can keep track of the progress of this entity directly within the CRM from different entities. This is the same with the contact as well. Now that the contact's been linked, so I can see the onboarding for that. So obviously, depending on your use case, you'll be able to connect this entity to any other entity in the CRM and be able to see that link. And that covers everything with the automation processes, the smart automation processes. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you find this very helpful. Take care.